have broad range. You are a doctorate. You have a role at one of the most prestigious institutions of higher learning in the U.S. Army Ranger, Inc. 5000 company.
Now, discipline unto itself is important, but it's not necessarily enough because you have to have discipline in your action and discipline in your thinking. So from that perspective, over the years as I've gone out and worked with clients, and I started to think about a map of the U.S., and I thought, where have I worked with clients? And I darn near cover every decent-sized city in America and some other ones as well. But I would say that everywhere I've been to over the years, I have seen people that are really excellent at what they do. And in watching what they do and how they think about things, I noticed that they follow 5 fairly consistent steps. Some of the steps are more thinking related, some are more action related, but there's these 5 steps. So suffice it to say, I'm going to make an argument that for the most part, these steps happen in America. Is that fair? In the U.S. And many of you probably apply some of these steps. I've had a chance over the years to work in Central America. I've seen the steps there. I've seen them in Canada. I've seen them in Europe. I've seen them firsthand when I've been over in China, down in Malaysia and Vietnam. I've seen it in lots of different places. And it's regardless of industry. It's regardless of age. It's regardless of geography. There's just 5 things that we tend to do really well if we're excellent performers. And really being interested in that, I started to study what do excellent performers do. The first thing they do is they get clear on their purpose. That's what that question's about. Why are we here? What are we trying to do? What's my purpose in my role? What's my purpose of my team? What's the purpose of our organization? Getting clear on that. Perspective is an important thing. Really being clear. You mentioned about going out and listening to your customers. This is about who do we serve and what matters to them and how well are they doing at what matters to them and what can we do to impact that or help them out along the way. And then things about priorities. We can't tackle everything, right? We have to figure out what we're actually going to go after right now. What are our goals? What's our plan or plans to make those things happen? And then lastly, how well are we going to perform against these things? Because the last one is kind of where the rubber meets the road. It's the ability to say, okay, game on now. And how are we going to build trust with each other? Well, hopefully we started a while ago. Trust is something like planting a tree. When's the best day to plant a tree? Yesterday. When's the second best day? Today. When's the best day to start working on trusting relations with somebody? Probably yesterday. Second best is today.
It's not just for somebody who's has the job or title at work, they're the leader. It's for all of us who want to lead ourselves, want to influence other people, want to eventually maybe aspire to lead a team, and even for people who are in leadership roles. It's the idea about how do I think like a leader? How do I act like a leader? How do I, begin to move in the right direction wherever I'm at on my journey?
And understanding our purpose and defining it in ways that are very clear is a critical thing because words have meaning. Let me prove this very quickly. I'm going to throw a word up on screen. I just want you to think in your mind the first word that comes to your mouth or first phrase. Not your mouth, your mind. Don't shout at me. Your first word that comes to your mind when I put this word on screen. There you go. All right, how many of you, just by show of hands, when I put up dog, thought of a particular dog? Like your dog. Look around, okay? How many of you thought of just a big dog? A few of you. Anybody thought of a little dog? Anybody thought of dog toys or dog treats? Dog collars, dog leashes. Anybody think cat? Words have meaning, folks. If we don't get clear on the purpose of our team and the purpose of our own work, if we don't do that good mind work to figure those things out, other people will define it for us. If you're ever wondering, why does our team keep getting handed these things? This isn't what we do. It's because you're letting people hand you these things. And they're defining it for you. And if we don't really get clear on purpose and communicate it well, what tends to happen is we end up with situations like this. My team paints the line, your team removes the debris. Not my fault that my team beat you to the place. right? And there's lots of pictures like this. If you ever just want to have a good laugh, go on the internet and just search things like this. You'll see the double lines going over the roadkill and all these other things out there. But the idea of purpose really matters. The second thing is perspective. They get clear on perspective. They want to figure out what matters most to those who matter most to you. And when you talked about customers, this is exactly what we're talking about. When I work with teams, I often ask them, who do you serve? Like, tell me all the people you serve. Like, spread your mind a little bit. Think broader. Who do you serve? Who are all the various, you call them stakeholders, you call them whatever you want to. All the people you serve. What matters to those people? Like, individually, think those things through. How well are they doing at what matters to them? In other words, where are they struggling at? And what can your team do to help them where they struggle? And some things maybe you can or you can't do, but the thinking through it is a really great exercise to get really clear on what matters to those folks and how you can impact that. Welcome to the Leadership Lab podcast. My name is Patrick Leddin, and I have the honor of being your host in the Leadership Lab. This podcast is for leaders, and that means this podcast is for you, because whether you're leading your career, a team, or an entire organization, you are a leader. I truly believe that we can learn lessons about leadership from a wide range of sources, and it's with this in mind that I invite guests to join me in the Leadership Lab. I've got a treat for you today. We're joined in the Leadership Lab by Whitney Johnson. She's an executive coach, the CEO of a company, a best-selling author known for writing the books Disrupt Yourself, Build an A-Team, and most recently the book Smart Growth. Whitney Johnson, thanks so much, my friend, for joining me today in the Leadership Lab.
Thank you for having me, Patrick.
Hey, Chris Voss, thanks for joining me today in the Leadership Lab. Global best-selling author James Patterson, welcome to the Leadership Lab. Stephen M.R. Covey, author of The Speed of Trust. Dory Clark, retired General Stan McChrystal. Atlanta Braves shortstop Dansby Swanson. Dolly Chu, hey Rita McGrath. Former HBR editor and best-selling author Karen Dillon. Robert Cialdini. Eddie Turner, best-selling author and marketer extraordinaire Seth Godin. Tasha Urich, former NFL player Desmond Clark. Rock climber extraordinaire Tommy Caldwell. Welcome to the Leadership Lab.
Working with Patrick really showed me the kind of leader I want to be. Someone who's confident, influential, and motivated, but also compassionate, relatable, and kind. It showed me the difference leaders can make just by listening to those around them and the impact they can have by investing in others.
What I'm going to suggest as we go through the discussion this morning, for the time that I have, is that whether you're an NFL player, or you're a mountain climber, or you're a salesperson, or a business owner, or whatever role you might perform, if you want to perform at a level of excellence, it takes a degree of discipline. And not just discipline in action, but as Todd was saying, also discipline in thinking, how you see things, how you approach things. Even having the discipline sometimes to step back and reevaluate something when you have new information. We live in a world today where it's sometimes difficult to take on new positions because we become so entrenched in our existing position. And in academia, for certain, we tend to make a statement or take a position, and then we argue it, until someone eventually proves us wrong. But the ability to step back and rethink about something is really a critical skill. And as Todd was mentioning, thinking is a skill. It's a business skill. It's often undervalued. If I were to walk by your office and you were sitting there and I was saying, what are you doing? And you said, I'm thinking, I would say, get back to work.